Hey, South Plains, Amanda with Lubbock Area United Way here again today. And today I am joined by Glenda Mathis. She is the Executive Director for the YWCA of Lubbock. And they've really just done some incredible things to help families and transition their services in the last couple of weeks as things have changed. And so I really want you guys to get the chance to hear from Glenda and what they're doing and learn about the services they're providing. So, hey, Glenda, how are y'all doing?
We're doing good, Amanda. Thank you so much for asking us to join you today. What an honor.
Absolutely. We're so happy to have you. So, Glenda, you guys provide a ton of services in the community. But I know one of the biggest and hardest things that y'all have been working on is transitioning of how to continue to care for kids during the crisis when we're in the stay-at-home order. So tell us a little bit about how y'all have made that transition and what y'all are doing right now.
Well, we're so grateful. I want to say that a lot of what we're doing right now in terms of families is also dependent on so many of the other agencies within the United Ways, because we kind of all pulled together to help each other out during this time. But obviously there were some significant changes for all of us. And from a childcare standpoint, the Texas Department of Childcare Licensing said, and the governor said, childcare was considered essential services. So we were sort of expected to stay open. So we've been here every day, and there are some significant changes. Number one, parents used to come into the building. They don't do that anymore. We do temperature checks on the outside before anyone gets to come into the building, including all staff, et cetera. So we started with that basic, the temperature checks, the increase in sanitation. That was one of our first challenges, is getting enough of the fluids that we use in those special sanitation machines. We ran into a little bit of problem there, but we worked it out. Hand sanitizer, those kinds of things. It was so interesting. I put out a call for hand sanitizer, and Guadalupe Parkway came through for us and said, we had some donated to us and we're not using it, so you guys can have it. So I really want to say a shout out to them for that assistance. We then also had to limit our group sizes, obviously. So our numbers that we typically are able to serve, we had to dramatically cut that and could only have very small groups. And then the other piece of it was, clearly the kids used to come here. All of this came down during spring break camp, where they're used to playing. And so when the governor said, well, we're not going back to school, spring break camp had to change into a study camp. And the kids, it took a little while, as you well know, when you change directions on kids, they have a little bit of hard time adjusting. So we had to spend some time explaining that this is not just for fun. We're now working. And I really want to say what an amazing job the LISD teachers have done getting that material ready for kids. Our job then became getting the kids in front of those computers and getting them to follow through on their teachers' assignments. So we're working with them kind of one-on-one in most cases, trying to keep them on track so that they're ready when school returns. After we kind of got everything settled, then it became the question from the governor's office was, are you serving only essential workers? So we immediately had to do a run through on that and make sure that everybody we were serving was an essential worker. And it turns out that 99% of them already were. So I think that's a good statement about how most parents are staying home with their children, but there are quite a few people who are still working and needed care. As we move towards summer camp, that becomes a little bit more tricky because people are going to start to go back to work. What we've concluded is that kids are far enough behind that we'll continue this model that we have, which is mornings are dedicated to schoolwork, and then afternoons we'll have a little bit more time for play. I think one of the issues that we're seeing also from children's point of view is the mental health changes, but kids are not accustomed to the amount of crisis they hear in the world news and seeing their schedules change. So we're working a lot on helping with that. The other big component of what we're doing is food services. Obviously, we have the food services of feeding the children that we're serving all day, but also we have a walk-up window for kids in the neighborhood, particularly the apartment complexes that are nearest us. And we're serving probably 100, 150 sacks a day of kids that come up. And clearly, this is a pattern where they would have been served by LISD, but they're coming here because they're used to doing that in the summertime. So we're just able to help in that respect. At a different level, we also have what we're calling a family pack. So a meal that serves a family of 4. So some of these parents that are working hard all day and they just need a break when they get home, they can purchase a family pack meal. It's pretty big sizes. I've had a few of them, and they seem to be pretty popular. We sell out every day. So we're having those available for $20. It's a pretty good bargain in terms of it probably feeds, it says 4, but it probably feeds 5, maybe 6. I don't know. It depends on your family, I guess. But anyway, we're doing that. The United Way has served us so well in terms of being a partner for after-school care and summer camp. This after-school care is just really morphed into more of an all-day study camp. And so we're doing that. That'll continue throughout the summer, and we're so grateful for the funds. Obviously, when we're dealing with families, we also hear from the families that they need services. So we're partnering significantly with Catholic Charities. And if we hear a family that really needs support, I can pick up the phone and call Cynthia over at Catholic Charities, and she's been so wonderful at helping some of our families with that. But we've been able to slow down that, or speed up, I suppose, the efficiency of that whole process by having a direct line to them. So that's a good bit. I will say to you that in terms of the curriculum that we're using, right now we're using what the schools are doing, but in the summer we'll be using a TEA, Texas Education Agency curriculum, so that we're sure we're trying to really focus on making certain that that we minimize the losses that the kids have from not being in the classroom. On another note, I know you're focused primarily on children right now, but of course, United Way supports our Women's Health Initiative, and women are still being diagnosed with cancer during this time. And our Women's Health Initiative folks have really concentrated on serving those women while some of the tests had to be postponed during this time. The needs of those women have not changed. They still need support from food and essentials that they can't get out because they're immune compromised. So we've been able to step up our service to them as well. So thank you to United Way, and thank you to all of our partners that we've been able to assist with certain things, and they've been able to assist us. It's worked out nicely.
It's such a great network, and the way, I mean, it's been kind of amazing to sit back and watch all those connections happen and happen naturally because the relationships were already there.
Yeah,
and I think that's been fantastic watching. Thanks for mentioning the Women's Health Initiative. I was going to ask you about that because I know y'all have had to make changes, and a lot of people are just in different circumstances. A lot of people, we've talked about it with on several of these. A lot of people who have never asked for help are suddenly having to ask for help.
Absolutely, it's difficult. It's a difficult process to ask for help. And so what I love about it is it's like what I love about this whole COVID-19 thing is that we're all in the same boat. Nobody is immune from it. And that makes it somewhat easier to ask, I think. But it is true. We've been able to reach out to Women's Protective Services and help them in certain ways. And so I think you're right. Everybody's really pulled together and helping, cross-connecting in ways they haven't been able to in the past.
Glenda, I want to ask you touched on it briefly, mental health and kids. I mean, our kids, and we were even talking about it before we started recording, our kids are experiencing this in such a different way than adults are. I mean, and as adults, we hardly have any idea how to process this. So
Exactly.
what are you seeing with the kids? What are you hearing from the kids? How can we all help the kids in our lives process this?
They're just a little agitated. They don't quite understand what's going on. And here's the thing I notice. They really want you to talk to them and tell them the truth. Well, the truth is we don't know the truth. We don't know all the facts, but we have to just explain that to kids that it's hard to understand it. We did have a little flyer that was sent to us through the Meadows Institute that's really working on mental health in children, and we can make that available to anyone. I'll send it to you, and you can put it up on that resource site that has been so valuable to folks. It has some ideas about how to talk to kids through this process. A lot of them are catching on, like they understand, coughing, how to cough and that sort of thing. They understand, they're getting to understand social distancing, but they're still kids. And so they still want to tussle, and it's just hard for them to kind of get over the fact that they suddenly don't get to see their friends. And the older they get, sometimes those issues are a little bit harder. And we really need to be mindful that they're suffering. It's hard for when a parent is suffering and trying to figure out how we're going to pay the bills and how we're going to take care of these problems. It's hard to notice that the kids are also suffering. So I'll make that resource available to you. It's just some basic hits, but it does ask us to ask kids to step into the space with honesty. And we just need to be frank with them and tell them this is where we are, and we're going to try to make the most of it. It's not a very helpful answer, but it's really, they're able to understand a lot more than we give them credit for. Sometimes they don't want to understand it, but we definitely see a lot more tension right now, and we have to. That's a good thing for social distancing with kids. Keeps them further apart so they can't tussle with each other.
There you go. Some natural social distancing happening with and that's so hard. In our house, we have a 15-year-old who, when the notice last week came back that we weren't going back to school, I mean, that's the first time teenagers have ever been disappointed when somebody said that they couldn't go back to school.
Yes, I know. They're missing those end of school parties and heaven forbid, thinking about graduation and prom and all of those things. I think they'll grow up with some much different perspectives depending on how long this lasts. Some of them may not remember it at all, but I suspect most of them will have some pretty vivid memories of this time and how it impacted their lives.
Yeah, I think you're right, Glenda. Glenda, we just are so grateful for all you guys are doing, and just the innovation that is happening, the innovation you guys have done, and figuring out, okay, how do we still continue to provide childcare and do it with social distancing and doing it with good sanitation and health measures, and how do we, feed kids? How do we make sure that families are getting what they need? So we're so grateful to you guys for all the work that you've done. If a family, right now it's essential service families only, correct? So if a family is in need of childcare, what do they need to do?
Well, they can certainly call. I think people have to recognize that as we move in to the next phase, it's going to be harder to find childcare because we are limited on the amount of space. And I think that's going to be the next thing you see, is that there's just not enough care available. But they should just call the Y or any of our other partners in the network and ask and see, get on the list pretty quickly and stay on those lists. Of course, our number is, I know people don't ever write those numbers down, so just look us up on the website, and we're happy to help everybody that we can, and refer you on to people if we aren't able to. That's one of the nice things, is knowing that we can refer to each other.
Absolutely. So we will link to that in the notes, link to your website. We'll also link to the section of our website where we do have all the childcare facilities that are open. And so you guys have that information and know who you can get in contact to. You know, we'll see as things open up, how fast childcare centers are able to open up to
Yeah.
non-essential services. But there are tons of resources. If you're home with kids, don't feel like you are alone. There's a ton of resources out there and support out there. So Glenda, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for
Yeah,
all.
if you've got 1 second, I do want to make a shout out to the United Way and the Community Foundation of West Texas that y'all got together to raise some funds, because one of the things we have been able to do is provide childcare scholarships during this time and help those first help people get through this, because childcare is an expensive venture. And so thank you very much for setting that up so that we can make that available to folks. And I mean, like you said, it really does take a village, and the village has come together once again here in Lubbock. So thank you for your help.
Oh, what a great village we have. Glenda,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks South Plains for all that y'all are doing right now. Everybody who's helping, we appreciate y'all so much. If you need any help, any services, please don't hesitate to reach out to United Way. We are here for you guys, and so are our community partners. Thank y'all, and y'all have a